She ordered a husband through the mail, a gentle schoolteacher who would help her keep the farm. Instead, she got an armed stranger with cold gray eyes and twin revolvers on his hips. His first words to her: "Thomas Merritt is dead. Someone cut his throat in Kansas." But here is the twist she never saw coming. The man who killed her mail-order husband? The same man who murdered her father 6 months ago. And he is the most respected citizen in town. What happens when a desperate widow and a dangerous detective join forces against a killer who controls everything? Stay until the end. Because the truth she uncovers will change everything she thought she knew about love, justice, and survival. This story teaches us that sometimes the things we do not ask for are exactly what we need. That strength is not found in avoiding hardship, but in facing it with courage. And that real love is not about finding someone perfect. It is about finding someone who stands beside you when everything falls apart. If this story touched your heart, drop a comment below telling me where you are watching from. I want to see how far Clara's journey travels across this wide world. Hit that like button if you believe in second chances and unexpected love. Now settle in. This story is just beginning. The eastbound train screamed into Redemption Creek Station like a wounded animal. Brakes shrieking against iron rails, steam hissing white against the gray autumn sky. Clara Whitmore stood alone on the wooden platform, clutching a tintype photograph so tight the edges bit into her palm. 1, 2, 3. She counted her breaths the way she had learned during those 2 bloody years as a battlefield nurse. Steady hands saved lives. Steady hands kept her sane when the world tilted sideways and threatened to dump her into darkness. The photograph showed a slender man with kind eyes and soft hands. Thomas Merritt, school teacher from Philadelphia. The man who had written her 14 months of beautiful letters promising partnership, respect, and a future uncomplicated by violence. Her mail-order husband. Her last hope. Passengers descended from the train cars, a drummer lugging sample cases, a tired mother herding 3 children, an elderly widow clutching a worn Bible. No one matching the photograph. Clara's hand drifted unconsciously to her pocket, fingers brushing the worn bone handle of her father's surgical knife. The motion was automatic now. Comforting. 6 months since someone beat her father to death and staged it to look like a riding accident. 6 months of fighting alone to keep the homestead, dodging the bank's demands and the neighbors' predatory patience. A woman alone could not hold land in Wyoming territory. Not without a husband's name on the deed. Not without someone to stand between her and the wolves, circling closer with each passing week. Thomas Merritt was supposed to be her salvation. Then the last passenger stepped down from the train, and Clara's heart stopped beating. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with shoulders built for door frames and violence. Dark hair fell across his forehead, unkempt and too long. His face was all sharp angles, high cheekbones, a jaw like carved granite, a mouth set in a grim line that looked like it had forgotten how to smile years ago. But it was his eyes that froze her blood. Pale gray, cold as winter sky, scanning the platform with the predatory awareness of a man who expected attack from any direction. Twin revolvers hung low on his hips, not hidden, not apologetic, just there, like they had grown from his body. His gaze found her across the platform. Something flickered in those gray eyes. Recognition. Calculation. Then it vanished like smoke. He walked toward her with the measured stride of a gunfighter. Clara's fingers tightened on the knife in her pocket. Her breath came faster despite her counting. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. He stopped 3 paces away, close enough to speak quietly, far enough to draw if needed. Clara Whitmore. His voice scraped like gravel over stone. Her throat closed around the words she wanted to say. She forced them past anyway. Who are you? I am waiting for Thomas Merritt. Thomas Merritt is dead. No inflection. No sympathy. Facts delivered like bullets from those revolvers at his hips. Clara felt the platform tilt beneath her feet. The tintype bent in her grip. I found his body 3 days ago in Kansas. The stranger's voice remained flat, emotionless. Someone cut his throat and left him in a ditch outside Dodge City. The words crashed over Clara like cold water. She heard them, but could not make them real. Thomas, gentle Thomas, with his beautiful letters about poetry and philosophy and quiet evenings by the fire. Dead. Murdered. You found his body. Clara heard her own voice from far away. Harder than she expected, anger rising beneath the shock. Who are you that you go around examining corpses? The stranger reached slowly into his coat, deliberately. Letting her see the movement was not a threat. He produced a worn leather wallet and flipped it open. A badge gleamed dully in the fading light, tarnished silver showing the eye that never sleeps symbol of the Pinkerton National Detective Agency. Name is Elias Crow. I am a detective. Somebody murdered your mail-order husband, Miss Whitmore. Those gray eyes held hers. Read her face with unsettling intensity. Just like somebody murdered your father 6 months ago. Clara caught it, the slight flicker in his expression when he mentioned her father. The way he watched for her reaction like a hawk watching a rabbit. He knew something. He was hiding something. My father died of a riding accident. Your father was beaten to death and staged to look like an accident. I have read the case file. Elias Crow tucked the badge away. Question is, do you want to know who did it, or do you want to keep pretending it was bad luck? Before Clara could respond, a familiar voice called across the platform. Clara, my dear girl. Judge Solomon Drake approached with the easy confidence of a man who owned everything he surveyed, and he nearly did. 62 years old, white hair swept back from a distinguished face, carrying a silver-headed cane he did not need. The most respected citizen in Redemption Creek, the benevolent father of the town. I heard the train and thought I would check if your expected guest had arrived. Drake's eyes moved to Elias Crow, assessing. Something flickered there. Recognition quickly suppressed. And who might this be? A friend of Thomas Merritt. Elias spoke before Clara could answer. His tone was pleasant enough. His eyes were not. Delivering some unfortunate news. How terrible. Drake's sympathy oozed like warm honey. Clara, you must let me escort you home. A lady should not be alone at such a difficult time. That will not be necessary, Judge. Clara surprised herself with the firmness in her voice. Something about the way Elias Crow had tensed when Drake appeared. The way his hand had drifted toward his holster. Mr. Crow will see me home. We have matters to discuss about Thomas. Drake's expression did not change, but something shifted behind his eyes. Of course. You know where to find me if you need anything at all. He tipped his hat and withdrew. His cane tapped against the wooden platform as he walked away. Tap, 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 like counting down to something. Elias Crow watched him go. His hand had not moved from near his weapon. You know him, Clara said. Not a question. I know of him, and we should talk somewhere private. The wagon ride to the homestead took nearly an hour. 3 miles of rutted road through dying autumn grassland, the setting sun painting everything gold and red like spilled blood. Clara held the reins. She had been holding them alone for 6 months. She was not about to let go now. You are lying to me about something. She did not look at the armed stranger beside her. I can tell. I spent 2 years watching men lie about how much pain they were in, while I cut off their legs. I know what deception looks like. Silence stretched between them, long enough that Clara thought he would not answer. Then, you are smart. That is probably why you are still alive. That is not an answer. No, it is not. The homestead appeared in the fading light. The modest house her father built, the barn, the fence line he had mended 1,000 times. Clara's chest tightened at the sight of it. Then she saw the front door standing open, not broken, just open, as if someone had left in a hurry or was still inside. Elias Crow's hand moved to his revolver in one fluid motion, a gunfighter's reflex. "Stay behind me. Like hell." Clara drew her father's surgical knife. "This is my home." They approached together. Two people who had met an hour ago now moving in cautious formation toward unknown danger. The house was empty, but someone had been there, drawers pulled open, floorboards pried up. Her father's desk ransacked, papers scattered across the floor like dead leaves. They were looking for something. Elias crouched to examine the damage. Professional job. Knew what they were doing. Who? Looking for what? He met her eyes across the ransacked room. This armed stranger standing amid the wreckage of everything she had left. That is what we need to find out. Before they decide, you know where it is. Clara looked at him. Really looked. The revolvers on his hips, the scars on his knuckles, the weight of violence in those gray eyes. She had ordered a husband, a gentle schoolteacher to help her keep the farm. Instead, she had received this. An armed stranger with secrets and a gunfighter's reflexes. "Who are you really, Mr. Crow? And do not lie to me again." Something that might have been respect flickered across his face. "I am someone who wants the same thing you do, the truth about who is killing people in this territory." He straightened from his examination of the ransacked desk. "The question is whether you are brave enough to hear it when we find it." Clara thought of her father, of Thomas Merritt dying in a Kansas ditch with his throat cut, of the gentle life she had ordered through carefully written letters. That life was dead now. Whatever came next would be forged in something harder than hope. "Try me." The ghost of something crossed Elias Crow's face. Not quite a smile, but close. "Yeah, I think I will." Outside, the autumn wind carried the smell of dust and dying things. Inside, Clara Whitmore stood in her father's ruined house with an armed stranger and made a decision that would change everything. She was done being prey. It was time to become something else entirely. Morning light revealed what darkness had hidden. Clara moved through her father's house, cataloging the destruction. Every drawer dumped, every closet searched. Someone had even pulled up the loose floorboard near the window where she had hidden childhood treasures. They had known exactly where to look. Elias Crow examined the damage with the professional detachment of a man who had seen worse. Back window, jimmied clean. They came at night, took their time, knew you would be at the station, which means someone told them. Clara's voice came out flat, hollow. "Someone in town knew when I would be gone. Welcome to your first lesson in investigation." Elias crouched by the fireplace, examining the ash. "Burn patterns here. They went through your father's papers, found something. Burned the rest to hide what they took." Clara watched him work. This stranger who moved through her home like he belonged there. His competence was both reassuring and infuriating. "You still have not explained why you are really here. Thomas is dead. Your obligation ended with him." Elias stood, brushed ash from his knees, stayed quiet long enough that Clara thought he would refuse to answer. Then, "Your father wrote to me. 8 months ago. He discovered something. A pattern of deaths and land transfers going back years. He wanted Pinkerton help to investigate. My father wrote to you, to the agency. The letter was assigned to me." Elias met her eyes. "By the time it reached my desk, he was already dead." Clara's legs went weak. She sat on the edge of her father's chair, the worn wood where he had sat every evening, the shape of him still pressed into the cushion. "He knew," Clara whispered. "He knew something was wrong and someone killed him for it." Thomas Merritt was sent to continue the investigation. Cover story of answering a matrimonial advertisement. Gives him reason to be here, access to the community. Elias paused. "He was not supposed to actually fall in love with you. That was not part of the plan." "What?" "I read his reports, his last one." Elias looked away, jaw tight. "He wrote that he had made a mistake, that he could not marry you under false pretenses. He wanted permission to tell you the truth, abandon the investigation, marry you honestly." Clara's throat closed. Thomas. Gentle Thomas with his beautiful letters. He had been investigating her father's murder all along. But he had also fallen in love. And then someone killed him. 3 days after he sent that report. The coffee grew cold between them as they talked. Two strangers bound by murder and circumstance. "I need to stay," Elias said. "Continue the investigation. Protect you from whoever is cleaning up loose ends. But a strange man living on a single woman's property would destroy my reputation and give the bank every excuse to call in my father's note." Clara finished. "I know how this territory works, Mr. Crow. So we make it legal. Marriage in name only. I get legitimate reason to be here. You get protection. A husband's name on the deed. Someone to stand between you and whoever is hunting. And in return, you help me investigate. You know this town, these people. You are observant, smart. Whoever killed your father thought you were just a grieving daughter." Elias leaned forward. "They underestimated you. I do not intend to make the same mistake." Clara studied him. This hard, dangerous man offering a partnership she had never asked for. "I have conditions. Name them. You teach me everything. How to track, how to investigate, how to fight properly. I am not a porcelain doll to be protected. I am a partner or nothing." Something shifted in his expression. "Respect, maybe. Done. You sleep in the barn until I say otherwise. You do not enter this house without invitation. You do not touch me. Do not make demands on my time or—" She swallowed. "Or anything else." "Understood. And if I tell you to leave, for any reason, you go. No argument." "Fair enough." Elias extended his hand. "Partners, then. Nothing more unless you decide otherwise." Clara took his hand. His grip was rough, calloused, warm in a way she had not expected. "Partners. Now let us go find a preacher before I change my mind." Pastor William Brennan's small church sat at the edge of town. Plain glass windows, whitewashed walls. The kind of place where simple people made simple promises before God. The ceremony took less than 10 minutes. Pastor Brennan asked if Clara entered freely. She said yes without hesitation. His wife, Martha, witnessed. Eyes worried, but silent. When Brennan pronounced them married, neither moved to kiss. The moment simply ended. Two strangers, now legally bound by words spoken in a quiet church while autumn wind rattled the windows. "You will need to file with the county recorder," Brennan said as Clara signed the certificate. "Judge Drake handles most civil matters." Clara's pen stuttered. She forced it steady. "Thank you, Pastor." Outside the church, Elias helped her onto the wagon seat, maintaining careful distance even now. "We need to file with Drake." He climbed up beside her. "Put us directly in front of him. Is that wise?" "It is necessary. If he is involved, and I believe he is, we need to watch his reaction when he learns you are not alone anymore." "You believe he is involved." Elias took the reins. "Your father was investigating land fraud. The biggest landowner in the territory is sitting behind a judge's bench. In my experience, coincidences, that convenient, do not exist." That night, Clara lay awake in her bedroom, listening to unfamiliar sounds from the barn. Her husband, a stranger with guns and secrets. She turned over, and her hand brushed something under her pillow. A letter from her father she had saved. The last one he ever wrote her, back when she was still working at the field hospital. She opened it, read by moonlight. "My darling Clara, trust your instincts. They have always been better than mine. If something ever happens to me, look in the place where your mother used to hide Christmas presents. Some secrets are too dangerous for paper. Love always. Pa." Clara sat up, heart hammering. She had read this letter 100 times, never understood that middle part, dismissed it as her father's rambling sentimentality. But now, she slipped out of bed, pulled on a robe, moved to the cellar door, the place where your mother used to hide Christmas presents. Clara was 12 when her mother died, but she remembered. A loose stone in the cellar wall, where packages would appear each December like magic. The cellar smelled of earth and apples long since eaten. Clara's lantern threw jumping shadows as she moved between shelves of preserved vegetables. Crates of stored supplies. She found the loose stone. The mortar crumbled when she pulled. Behind it, a metal box, heavy with secrets. Inside, she found her father's life, the one he had hidden from her. A map of the territory with X marks over 7 properties. A leather journal filled with cramped handwriting. A Pinkerton badge, older and more worn than Elias Crow's. And a photograph. 2 young men in suits, arms around each other's shoulders, smiling. One of them was her father, 20 years younger, standing next to a man she did not recognize. Clara stared at the badge. Her father, a Pinkerton detective. Her entire childhood reshaping itself around this new truth. The quiet farmer who taught her to ride and shoot and love books. He had been something else entirely. I always knew he was hiding something, Clara whispered to the empty cellar. I just never wanted to ask. She carried the box upstairs, set it on the kitchen table, waited for morning. When Elias came for breakfast, she showed him everything. His reaction was carefully controlled. Too controlled. You already knew, Clara said, about my father. I knew Henry Whitmore was one of ours. 20 years ago, retired, disappeared, wanted to be forgotten. Elias examined the journal without opening it. I did not know he was still working cases. What is in that journal? They read it together. Henry Whitmore's investigation laid out in meticulous detail. 7 homesteaders dead or driven out in 2 years. All properties purchased by a company called Bitterroot Land Development. Ownership traced through shell companies to nothing. The trail going cold. Notes about SD making decisions. Initials only. A final entry. Someone watching the house. Time running short. If I do not survive, tell Clara. The entry ended mid-sentence. SD, Clara said. Solomon Drake. Likely. But initials are not proof. Elias closed the journal. We need to find the connection between Bitterroot Land Development and Drake. Paper trail. Witnesses. Something that cannot be explained away. Clara looked at the badge in her hands. Her father's secret life. His hidden purpose. He died trying to stop this, she said quietly. Thomas died trying to finish what my father started. Yes. Then so will we. Clara met Elias's eyes. Whatever it takes. Whoever we have to face, we finish this. The ghost of something crossed his face again. That almost smile. Partners. Partners. Outside, the autumn wind picked up, carrying the smell of change on its cold breath. Clara Whitmore had ordered a husband, a safe, gentle school teacher to help her survive. Instead, she had married an armed stranger and discovered her father's murderer sat behind a judge's bench. The woman who stepped onto that train platform yesterday was gone now. Something harder was taking her place. They rode into Redemption Creek together that afternoon, their first public appearance as husband and wife. Heads turned. Whispers followed them down the main street like shadows. Clara Whitmore. Married an armed stranger 2 days after her mail-order husband was supposed to arrive. Some folks called it desperate. Others called it suspicious. Clara kept her spine straight and her eyes forward. Let them talk. She had bigger concerns than town gossip. At the county recorder's office, she filed her marriage certificate while Elias examined land records. The clerk was a nervous little man named Patterson who sweated through his collar despite the autumn chill. Every property on your father's map. Elias showed her the documents when Patterson retreated to fetch coffee. Transferred to Bitterroot Land Development within weeks of the owner's death or departure. And the company owners. Listed as a law firm in Denver. I have sent a telegram. Should have answers in a few days. They walked to Maggie Sullivan's saloon next. The only establishment in town where questions could be asked without immediate reporting to Judge Drake. The saloon was dim and smelled of tobacco and spilled whiskey. A long bar. Scattered tables. A piano that nobody was playing. the kind of place where secrets changed hands along with money. Clara felt eyes on her as they entered. Not friendly eyes. A drunk ranch hand grabbed her arm when she passed his table, thick fingers digging into her flesh. Well now, if it ain't the widow who ordered herself a husband. His breath stank of cheap whiskey. What is the matter, sweetheart? Local boys not good enough. Before Elias could react, Clara had her surgical knife against the man's inner wrist, right over the artery her father had taught her to find. I spent 2 years cutting off gangrenous limbs without anesthesia. Her voice was steady, cold. I can remove your hand in under a minute if you would like a demonstration. The drunk's face went pale. He released her arm. Clara stepped back. The knife disappeared into her pocket, like it had never been there. Elias watched with an expression she could not quite read. Maggie Sullivan's office was in the back, small, cluttered, smelling of perfume and secrets. Maggie herself was beautiful in a hard way. Red hair piled high, knowing eyes, a smile that promised nothing good. Well, Eli Crow. She leaned against her desk, arms crossed. Never thought I would see you in Wyoming. You know each other, Clara said. Not a question. We knew each other. Maggie's smile sharpened. 3 years ago. Kansas City. Different lifetime. The air thickened. Clara felt something ugly stir in her chest. Not jealousy, she told herself, just wariness. I need information, Elias said. Thomas Merritt. He was here 3 months before he answered Clara's advertisement. Why? Maggie's expression shifted. Genuine surprise. Thomas was here before. I never saw him. He was staying somewhere in town, meeting with someone. I need to know who. That will cost you Eli. Information is how I survive. Clara stepped forward. Someone murdered my father and my fiancé. The same people might come for you if they think you know too much. Her voice was steel. Help us stop them, or wait to become another name on the list. Your choice. Maggie studied Clara for a long moment. Whatever she saw made her smile fade. There is a cabin in the hills. Old prospectors claim. Abandoned years back. Word is someone has been using it. Lights at night. Smoke from the chimney. Maybe your Thomas was staying there. They rode out before dusk, following directions to an old mining claim in the foothills of the Bitterroot Range. The cabin was small and weathered, built decades ago by someone chasing gold that never came. Smoke stains above the chimney suggested recent use. Inside, they found evidence of habitation, a bedroll, empty tins of beans, a small fire pit with cold ashes, and in a hidden compartment in the floor, Thomas Merritt's field journal. Clara's hands shook as she opened it. Thomas's handwriting, neat and careful, the same script that had written her all those beautiful letters about poetry and philosophy and shared futures. His final entries told a different story. Bitterroot land development controlled by someone here in Redemption Creek. Meeting scheduled night before departure. Someone willing to provide evidence. Clara deserves the truth. After tomorrow, I will tell her everything. Even if she hates me, at least it will be honest. The next page was blank. He never made that meeting. Clara closed the journal, pressed it against her chest. Grief and anger tangled together so tight she could not separate them. He was going to tell me, she whispered. He was going to tell me everything. They found his body the next morning. Elias's voice was quiet. 3 days before, he would have reached you. Drake knew. Drake found out somehow and had him killed before he could talk. That is what the evidence suggests. Clara stood, slid the journal into her coat. Then let us find proof that will put Drake in the ground. They were halfway back to the homestead when the gunshots started. 2 riders burst from the tree line, firing as they came. Clara felt a bullet whip past her cheek, close enough to feel the heat. Get down! Elias drew and returned fire in one fluid motion. Clara threw herself from her horse, rolled behind a fallen log. Her pistol was in her hand before she consciously decided to draw it. One attacker fell from Elias's shot, tumbling from his saddle to lie still in the autumn grass. The other kept coming, charging straight at Clara's position, gun raised, death in his eyes. She fired. The bullet took him in the shoulder. He kept coming. She fired again, center mass. The man dropped 5 feet from her, close enough that she could see the light leave his eyes. Clara stared at the body. Her hands were steady. Her mind was blank. Clara. Elias was beside her, checking her for wounds. Clara, look at me. Are you hurt? I killed him. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. I have never. I watched men die in the hospital. Hundreds. But I never. It was him or you. You did what you had to do. She nodded. Her hands still were not shaking. That felt wrong somehow. They searched the bodies, found the usual. Guns, knives, money, and in one man's pocket, a silver deputy's badge from a county 3 territories away, and a note written in elegant script. Make it clean. The woman knows nothing. But Crow needs to disappear. S.D. Solomon Drake. Clara held the note in trembling hands. Proof. Written proof. We need more, Elias said. This ties Drake to hiring killers. But a good lawyer could claim forgery. We need something he cannot explain away. Then we find it. They rode back to the homestead in silence. The bodies left for the coyotes. Clara made it inside before her body betrayed her. Elias found her in the corner of the kitchen, knees drawn up, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. The surgical knife in her hands, gripped like a lifeline. He did not speak, just sat beside her on the cold floor. Waited. I did not feel anything, Clara whispered. When I shot him, nothing. What does that make me? It makes you a survivor. Elias's voice was quiet. The feelings come later. They always do. Is that how it works for you? Every time. Clara leaned against him without meaning to. He stiffened, then carefully put an arm around her shoulders. I thought I would be different, she said. Thought when the moment came I would hesitate, freeze, fail. You did not. No, I did not. She turned to look at him. Is it wrong that I am glad? That I could do it when I had to? No. His eyes were gentle in a way she had not seen before. That is not wrong. That is human. They sat together on the cold floor while darkness gathered outside. 2 people bound by violence and something else, something neither was ready to name. Later that night, Clara searched her father's journal, looking for any mention of Elias Crow. She found it on page 47, wrote to Pinkerton requesting assistance, hoped they send Crow, worked with him in '79 during the railroad case. Good man, trustworthy. If anything happens to me, he will protect Clara. Below that, in different ink, added later. E.C. arrived in territory 2 weeks ago. Has not made contact, watching from distance. Why? What is he waiting for? Clara's blood ran cold. Elias had been here 2 weeks before her father was murdered, watching, waiting, and he had never mentioned it. The note sat heavy in her hands. Her father's trust, Elias's deception, partners. He had called them partners. But partners did not lie. Clara set the journal aside. Tomorrow she would confront him, demand the truth. Tonight she lay awake, listening to the wind, remembering the weight of the gun in her hand, the sound a bullet made when it hit flesh. She had killed a man today, and somewhere deep inside her, past the horror and the shock, she felt something that scared her more than any armed stranger. She felt ready to do it again. Clara waited until Elias came for breakfast. Then she locked the door behind him. She stood with her back to the stove, her father's pistol in her hands, not aimed at him, not yet. You were here. Her voice was flat. 2 weeks before my father was murdered. You were in this territory, watching him, watching me. Elias went very still. His eyes moved to the pistol, then to her face. He did not reach for his own weapons. Yes, you said you never got a chance to respond to his letter. You lied. I said the letter reached my desk after he was dead. That was true. Elias's voice was careful, measured. I came here on a different assignment, following a thread from an old case that led to Bitterroot land development. I did not know your father was investigating the same thing until I arrived and recognized his name. So you watched him, for 2 weeks, while someone was planning to kill him. I was gathering information, making sure he was not compromised. Sometimes retired agents go bad. Sell what they know. Elias's jaw tightened. By the time I confirmed he was legitimate, he was dead. I was 3 miles away when it happened. You could have warned him. I did not know there was anything to warn him about. Elias's control cracked. His voice rose. I thought I had time. Thought we would make contact. Share information. Work together. I was wrong, Clara. I made a mistake and your father paid for it. Clara's hands shook on the pistol. What else have you not told me? Silence. What else? I read your letters. The words came out rough, almost ashamed. The ones you wrote to Thomas. They were in his case file. I read them to understand who you were, whether you could be trusted, whether you might be involved. Clara could not finish. Those letters were private, her hopes, her fears, her loneliness poured onto paper for a stranger who turned out to be investigating her. I know you like to read poetry by lamplight. I know you go to market every Saturday. I know you wrote about wanting children someday, about your mother's death, about how scared you are of ending up alone. Elias's voice broke. I know more about you than any stranger should, and I am sorry. I am sorry I invaded that. I am sorry I was not faster or smarter or better. Sorry does not bring my father back. No, it does not. Clara lowered the pistol. Her arms ached from holding it steady. I should throw you out, she said quietly. Tell the sheriff you are harassing me. Have you run out of town? You could. I would not stop you. But then I would never know who killed my father. And they would come for me next, would they not? Whoever is cleaning up loose ends. Probably. Clara set the pistol on the table, sat down heavily. Her whole body felt hollow. I do not forgive you, she said. I do not trust you. But I need you and you need me. And that is going to have to be enough. It is more than I deserve. You are right. It is. She looked up at him. This man who knew her secrets, who watched her from the shadows, who carried guilt like chains. No more lies, no more omissions. If we are going to survive this, I need to know everything you know, all of it. Elias told her everything. The Bitterroot case went back 3 years. Similar patterns in Kansas and Colorado. Always the same shell companies. Someone was systematically acquiring land along potential railroad routes, eliminating anyone who would not sell. Thomas was Elias's partner before transferring to the matrimonial assignment. They had worked together for 4 years. Thomas was the closest thing Elias had to family since Sarah died. Who is Sarah? Elias was quiet for a long moment. My sister. She died 5 years ago, because I made a choice I can never take back. Tell me. Some other time. When we know each other better. When trust means more than words. Clara nodded. Fair enough. When Thomas's body was found, I requested the case personally. Elias continued. This is not just professional, Clara. It is revenge. So we both want the same thing, justice, answers, and to make sure no one else dies. Then we work together. Really together this time. No more watching from the shadows. No more watching. They spent the rest of the morning planning. Drake controlled everything. Sheriff was in his pocket. County recorder owed him money. Half the town depended on his goodwill. Even if we ride to the territorial capital, what do we have? Elias said. Initials that could mean anyone. A dead man's notes. The word of a disgraced detective and a widow everyone thinks is hysterical with grief. So we need unimpeachable evidence. We need a witness. Someone inside Drake's operation who will testify. What about approaching Drake directly? Clara said slowly. Not to confront him. To let him help me. Elias's expression hardened. Explain. He sees himself as the town's protector, especially of women. If I go to him, frightened widow, overwhelmed by my new husband's dangerous past, maybe he lets something slip. Maybe I can get access to his office, his records. Absolutely not. You would be walking into what? A conversation. Clara stood, frustration boiling over. You said we are partners. Partners means I get to take risks too, not risks that put you alone with a man who has killed at least 8 people. He will not hurt me in broad daylight in his own office. That is not how he operates. He hires others to do the dirty work. Clara moved toward him. Elias, listen to me. Right now Drake thinks I am just a grieving woman who made a desperate marriage. He has no reason to see me as a threat. Let me use that. They stood close, closer than partners should. Clara could see the pulse jumping in his throat. I cannot lose anyone else. His voice was barely audible. Clara. I cannot. You do not have the right to lose me. I do not belong to you. I know. His hand rose, almost touching her face, then dropped. I know you do not. Then trust me to make my own choices, even the dangerous ones. A long moment, something passed between them. Not resolution, but acknowledgement. You go in, you stay in public areas. You do not accept any invitation to private rooms. You get out within an hour, evidence or not. Elias's jaw was tight. And you take this. He pressed a small derringer into her hand. Inside your sleeve. Last resort only. Clara tucked the weapon away, felt its weight against her wrist. Partners, partners. Judge Drake's office was everything Clara expected. Leather and cigar smoke. Bookshelves lined with law volumes. A massive portrait of Drake with his late wife and young daughter hanging behind the desk. Drake rose when she entered. All grandfatherly concern. Mrs. Crow, what a pleasant surprise. How can I help you? Clara let her voice tremble. Not entirely acting. I did not know where else to go, Judge. I have made a terrible mistake. She spun a story. Elias was violent, secretive, disappeared at night. She was afraid she had married a criminal and did not know what to do. Drake's sympathy oozed. He patted her hand, offered tea, and while he was distracted, Clara's eyes catalogued everything. The filing cabinets, the safe behind the second bookshelf, the correspondence on his desk. I could make inquiries, Drake said, discreetly. Find out what kind of man you have really married. You would do that for me. My dear, protecting the vulnerable is my duty and my privilege. His smile was warm, his eyes were cold. I promised your father I would look after you, did I not? Clara's blood froze. Her father had never mentioned Drake taking any such interest. He did. Oh yes, Henry and I spoke often before his accident. Drake's gaze sharpened. Just slightly. He never mentioned that. Father kept many things private. Yes, he did. Drake's expression shifted. Suspicion flickering before the mask slid back. Well, you leave everything to me, Mrs. Crow. I will have answers for you soon. As Clara exited the office, she nearly collided with Deputy Cole Hastings. Mrs. Crow. Cole's face cycled through surprise. Concern. Something like pain. I heard about your marriage. I hope you are well. Cole had courted Clara before. Gentle, earnest. Never quite brave enough to declare himself. Now his eyes were shadowed with something darker. Deputy? Clara kept her voice neutral. Is something wrong? Can we speak privately? Just for a moment. They ducked into an alley between buildings. Cole checked to ensure they were not observed. You are playing a dangerous game, he said quietly. Whatever you think you are doing with Drake, stop. Now. I do not know what you mean. I'm not stupid, Clara. Cole's use of her first name was startling. I have watched Drake for years. I know what he is, what he has done. His voice dropped. I have collected evidence, enough to put him away if I could get it to someone who matters. Then why have you not? Because the last person who tried ended up dead. Staged as a riding accident. Cole's eyes were haunted. Your father, Clara. He came to me 3 days before he died, asking for help, and I was too much of a coward to give it. Clara returned to the homestead to find it empty. No Elias, no horses, signs of struggle, overturned chair, blood on the floor, a note pinned to the door with a knife. The Sullivan woman knows where. Come alone or watch him die slowly. Clara stood in her ruined kitchen, heart hammering. Every instinct screamed at her to wait, get help, be smart. Instead, she loaded both pistols, slid the derringer into her sleeve, and rode for town. Some lessons could not be learned from others. Clara did not go to the sheriff. She went straight to Maggie Sullivan's saloon. The back room was dim, smelled of blood and fear. Maggie was tied to a chair, face bruised, eyes defiant despite the damage. 2 armed men flanked the door. Their smiles said everything about what kind of men they were. Well, well. One of them grinned. The little wife came after all. Where is my husband? Waiting for you. Boss wants to have a conversation with both of you. They patted her down, found the pistols, missed the derringer in her sleeve. Amateurs. They bound her hands in front of her, shoved her toward the door. Now, Mrs. Crow, let us take a ride. The abandoned warehouse sat outside town, stinking of old hay and animal fear. The kind of place where bad things happen to people who ask too many questions. Elias was there, beaten, bloodied, tied to a support beam. He looked up when Clara entered and his face went white. You should have run. His voice was hoarse. Clara, why did you not run? Because I do not leave my partner behind. A figure emerged from the shadows. Not Drake. Younger, hard-faced, the kind of man who enjoyed his work. Touching, he said. Mr. Drake sends his regards. He was disappointed that you were not as gullible as you appeared, Mrs. Crow. But he is a practical man. He is offering a deal. What deal? Sign over your property. Leave the territory. Never speak of what you think you know. The man shrugged. In exchange, you both get to live, and if we refuse, then we will have to be creative. He drew a knife. I am told your husband has a talent for enduring pain. Let us test that. The derringer was small in Clara's palm. 2 shots, 4 men. Impossible odds. She thought of her father, of Thomas dying in a Kansas ditch, of all the people who had died because someone with power decided they were inconvenient. She thought of Elias, who came here to avenge a friend, and ended up tied to a post, bleeding for her sake. I have a counter-offer, Clara said. The man laughed. You are not in a position to... Clara shot him in the chest. Chaos erupted. She dove sideways as the other men drew, got off her second shot, missed but forced one attacker to cover. Elias was already moving, using the distraction. He had somehow freed one hand, was working on the other. Clara rolled behind a hay bale. Bullets thudded into it inches from her head. 1 shot left. No. 0 shots. The derringer was empty. She drew the surgical knife. The third man came around the hay bale. Clara did not hesitate, drove the blade into his thigh, severed the artery her father had taught her to find. He screamed, went down. Elias was free now, had grabbed a fallen gun. 2 shots, and the last man dropped. Silence, ringing ears, the smell of blood and gunpowder. Clara looked down at her hands, covered in blood, still gripping the knife. Clara. Elias was beside her, touching her face, her shoulders, checking for wounds. Are you hurt? Clara, look at me. She looked at him. Really looked. The bruises, the split lip, the desperate relief in his eyes. You came for me, he said. You stupid, brave, incredible woman. You came. I told you. Partners. He kissed her. Not gentle. Desperate. Hungry. Like a man who thought he would never get the chance. Clara kissed him back. Everything else fell away. The blood, the bodies, the danger. Just this, just them. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Elias rested his forehead against hers. "When this is over, I know." Clara touched his face, feeling the roughness of stubble, the warmth of skin. "I know." They freed Maggie, cut her bonds. Her face was swollen, but her spirit was intact. "Drake has a ledger," she said. "Every deal, every bribe, every murder. He keeps records, insurance against his own people turning on him." "Where?" "Safe in his office." Behind the portrait, Maggie coughed, spat blood. Combination is a date. His daughter's birthday. October 17, 1865. "How do you know this?" "Because I have been gathering information for years, waiting for someone brave enough to use it." Maggie's laugh was bitter. "My brother Brendan works in Drake's mines. Drake said if I ever talked, Brendan would have an accident." Her eyes hardened. "Well, he had his men beat me half to death tonight. I am done being afraid." Dawn was breaking as they planned their next move. "The safe is not enough," Elias said. "Ledger proves his crimes, but a good lawyer could claim fabrication. We need a witness, someone inside his family who will testify to what he has done." Lily. Clara remembered Drake's portrait. The young girl with haunted eyes, his daughter. "She knows something. That is why he sent her away. The convent is 2 days' ride, hard traveling through the mountains. Then we better start now." Clara checked her ammunition. "Before Drake realizes his men are not coming back." Elias watched her with an expression she was coming to recognize. Admiration mixed with fear. "You are not the woman I expected," he said quietly. "No, I am not." Clara met his eyes. "I am better." They rode out as the sun rose, leaving behind bodies and blood and the shattered remains of Drake's hired killers. The road ahead was dangerous. But for the first time since her father died, Clara did not feel alone. She had a partner now, and together they were going to burn Drake's empire to the ground. 2 days of hard riding through the Bitterroot Mountains. Cold nights, dangerous trails, forced proximity that stripped away the last barriers between them. The first night they camped in a shallow cave. Fire burning low, wind howling outside like hungry wolves. "Tell me about Sarah," Clara said quietly. "You do not have to, but I want to know." Elias was silent for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was distant. "She was 19. Fell in love with a man named Jack Dawes. Charming, handsome, everything I was not." His jaw tightened. "Also a murderer. 3 dead in Kansas City before I picked up his trail." She did not know. She knew. By the end, she knew everything. But she loved him anyway. Elias stared into the fire. "She was pregnant. 7 months. She came to me. Begged me to let him surrender quietly. Give her baby a father, even if it meant prison." Clara's chest ached. She already knew how this ended. "I said no. The law is the law," I told her. "No exceptions." Elias's voice broke. "I cornered Dawes in a warehouse. He grabbed Sarah as a shield. I thought I could talk him down. Thought I could save them both. What happened? He shot her, right in front of me, then turned the gun on himself." Elias finally looked at Clara. His eyes were wet. "I was so busy being righteous I forgot to be human. She died because I would not bend." Clara moved to sit beside him, took his hand. "That was not your fault." "Yes, it was." "Yes." "Dawes pulled the trigger, not you. I put him in that corner. I refused to negotiate. I treated the law like it mattered more than my own sister's life." Elias's grip tightened. "I have spent 5 years trying to make up for that, trying to save everyone I could not save then. And I keep failing. You have not failed me, not yet." Clara leaned against him, sharing warmth. "Then do not start now." The second night, rain drove them into an abandoned trapper's cabin. sharing body heat to survive the cold. I was in town when my father was killed, Clara whispered into the darkness. Buying supplies. He asked me to stay home that day, help with the fence. I said no. I needed to get out. Needed space. Elias's arms tightened around her. If I had been there, maybe I could have. I do not know, warned him, fought back. Something. Her voice caught. Instead, I was haggling over the price of flour while someone was beating my father to death. You could not have known. I know that. My head knows that. Clara pressed closer. But some nights when I cannot sleep, I wonder if he called for me. If he died waiting for help that was 2 miles away buying groceries. Elias held her while she cried. The first real tears she had shed since finding the hidden box in the cellar. When the storm passed inside and out, he kissed her forehead. We are going to find who did this, he said, and we are going to make them pay. Not because it will bring your father back, but because it is right. Because he deserves justice, and so do you. So do you, Clara said. Sarah deserves it too. Yeah. His voice was rough. Yeah, she does. The Sisters of Mercy convent sat on a lonely hillside, gray stone against gray sky. The kind of place where secrets went to hide. The Mother Superior was a stern woman with eyes that missed nothing. Lily Drake sees no visitors. Her father's instructions. Her father is the reason she is here. Clara kept her voice steady. We have reason to believe he is guilty of serious crimes. Lily may have evidence. I have no authority to. Then get some. Elias stepped forward. Ma'am, people are dying. Whatever you think you are protecting that girl from, it is nothing compared to what her father is doing to innocent families. A long moment, then a soft voice from the hallway. Let them in. Lily Drake was pale, thin. Her eyes were too old for her face. She wore simple clothing, not a habit. Not a nun. Just a prisoner in holy disguise. I have been waiting, she said. I knew someone would come eventually. They sat in a cold stone room while Lily spoke in a voice emptied of emotion. I was 12 when my mother discovered what father was doing. She found his ledger, confronted him, threatened to go to the authorities. What happened? He killed her. Lily's hands twisted in her lap. Right in front of me. Made it look like she fell down the stairs. Then he told me that if I ever spoke of it, the same thing would happen to me. Clara reached out, took Lily's cold hands. You were a child. That is not your fault. I know. Now I know. Lily's eyes hardened. But I was also his daughter. I knew his secrets. I was dangerous. So he sent you here, where no one would believe me even if I talked, the crazy daughter locked away in a convent. Lily's laugh was hollow. Do you know the worst part? He visits, once a year, like a loving father, brings gifts, acts like nothing happened. There is something else you need to know, Lily said, about Thomas Merritt. Clara's heart stuttered. You knew Thomas. I met him once, here at the convent, 3 months ago. He came to ask me about father. Lily hesitated. He also came to tell me something he had discovered, about himself. What? Thomas Merritt was my half-brother. Lily watched Clara's face for reaction. Father had an affair years ago, in Philadelphia. Thomas was the result. He grew up not knowing who his father was until the Pinkerton investigation brought him here. Clara sat frozen. Thomas, her gentle Thomas, Drake's son. He did not know. Lily continued. When he took the assignment, when he answered your advertisement, he had no idea his target was his own father. He discovered the truth after he arrived. Found old letters in Father's study. What did he do? He was going to confront Father, demand answers, maybe try to convince him to surrender, avoid bloodshed. Lily's voice dropped. I told him it was suicide. I begged him not to. But Thomas believed people could change, could be reasoned with. Clara closed her eyes. Thomas walking into his father's house, trying to save a man who had already decided to kill him. Father knew. Lily said quietly. He knew who Thomas was, had known for months. Had Thomas investigated as soon as he showed up in town, he killed his own son knowingly. Thomas was a threat. Blood does not matter to Father, only power. Lily stood, moved to the window. That is why I am willing to testify, not just for justice, for Thomas, for my mother, for everyone he has destroyed. A novice burst in, eyes wide with terror, riders approaching, armed men, coming fast up the hill. Elias moved to the window, 6 riders spreading out to surround the convent. Drake knows we are here. He checked his revolvers. He must have had us followed. How do we get out? Lily's face was pale but determined. There is a path through the cellars. Comes out behind the stables. Mother Superior showed me. In case I ever needed to run. Then we run. Clara grabbed Lily's arm. Now! Gunfire erupted outside. The siege had begun. The cellar passage was narrow, dark, filled with the smell of earth and centuries. Clara led with lantern in one hand and pistol in the other. Lily followed close behind. Elias guarded the rear. How did he know? Lily's voice shook. How did Father know we were here? Someone talked. Elias's jaw was tight. Either at the saloon or on the road, does not matter now. Keep moving. They emerged behind the stables into chaos. Nuns scattering, horses panicking, gunshots cracking the mountain air. 3 horses stood saddled, left by fleeing servants. Providence or luck, it did not matter. Ride. Elias hoisted Lily onto a horse, slapped its flank. Do not stop until you reach the trees. Clara mounted, drew her pistol. A man rounded the corner. She fired without hesitation, and he dropped. They burst through the gate into open ground, bullets whining past. Clara hunched low over her horse's neck, riding like her father taught her, like the wind itself. They lost their pursuers in the high country. Navigating trails, only the experienced could follow. By nightfall, they had gained enough distance to risk a cold camp. Lily collapsed against a boulder, shaking. Clara wrapped her in a blanket while Elias stood watch, eyes scanning the darkness. We cannot go back to Redemption Creek, Clara said. Not directly. Drake will have the roads watched. We need the ledger. Without it, Lily's testimony is just her word against her father's. Then one of us gets the ledger, while the others wait somewhere safe. Number Elias turned. We do not split up. Not again. We may not have a choice. Later. Lily slept exhausted. Elias and Clara sat watch together, shoulders touching, sharing warmth. When this is over, Elias said quietly, I want to rebuild your father's house. With you. For you. Clara looked at him. This hard, damaged man who had slowly revealed his broken heart. Is that a proposal? It is a promise. He took her hand. The proposal comes after you are safe, after Drake is locked away, after we have earned the right to think about tomorrow. We may not survive tomorrow. I know. Clara turned to face him fully. In the moonlight, his scars were silver, his eyes dark. Then I do not want to wait. She kissed him, not desperate this time, but deliberate. Choosing him, Elias responded with a tenderness that made her ache. Later, wrapped in each other under cold stars, Clara whispered, I love you. I did not want to. I fought it. But I do. I love you too. His voice was rough. Since the moment you threatened a drunk with a surgical knife and did not even blink, that is when you fell in love with me. During an act of violence, I fell in love with your strength, your refusal to be a victim. He pulled her closer. I have been falling ever since. Morning brought a new complication. A rider approached under white flag. Not Drake's man, a young boy from town, clearly terrified. He carried a letter from Deputy Cole Hastings. Drake knows you are coming. He has gathered men, armed the town against you, but he is also afraid. He has moved all his evidence to the bank vault for safekeeping. If you are going to move, it has to be now, before he transfers Lily's convent care to the territorial asylum. I have arranged a distraction. Midnight tomorrow, the old mill catches fire. In the confusion, you can reach the bank. I am sorry I was not braver sooner. Maybe this makes up for it. Cole. Clara read it twice. He is helping us, or it is a trap. Cole loved my father, loved me in his way. Clara folded the letter. This is his redemption. You trust him. I trust that he is too afraid of Drake to betray us, because if he did, Drake would kill him for knowing too much anyway. They approached Redemption Creek at dusk the following day, circling to come from an unexpected direction. What they saw stopped them cold. The main street was barricaded. Armed men patrolled the rooftops. And in the town square, Judge Drake stood on the courthouse steps, addressing a crowd. Dangerous fugitives. Elias Crow is wanted for murder in 3 territories. Clara Whitmore is his accomplice, seduced by his honeyed lies. My daughter Lily has been kidnapped by these criminals. The crowd murmured, eating up every word. I am offering a reward. $500 for Crow dead or alive. $200 for information leading to my daughter's safe return. These monsters will not destroy our peaceful town. Clara's hands tightened on her reins. He has turned the whole town against us. He is scared. Elias's voice was cold. Scared men make mistakes. Tonight we make him pay for all of them. Midnight. Cole's distraction worked. The old mill went up in flames. Orange light painting the night sky. Men rushing from their posts. Bucket brigades forming. Clara, Elias, and Lily moved through the chaos like ghosts. The bank was dark, locked, no match for Elias's skills. He picked the lock while Clara stood guard. Lily waited in the shadows, pale but resolute. Inside the vault presented a different challenge. I can crack it, Elias said, but it will take time, 15 minutes minimum. We may not have 15 minutes. Then make sure we do. Clara positioned herself at the window. Outside, the fire raged, but already some men were returning to their posts. The bucket brigade organized and functioning. 12 minutes. 10, 8. Someone is coming, Clara hissed. 2 men approaching the bank, rifles drawn. Clara recognized one. Drake's foreman. A brutal man called Jennings. She met them at the door. Evening, boys, looking for something. Jennings raised his rifle. Mrs. Crow, step aside. Cannot do that. Then you will die with your husband. Clara shot him before he finished the sentence. The second man returned fire. Clara dropped, rolled, came up shooting. He fell. More shouts from outside, more men coming. Elias, almost there. Clara reloaded, took position. 3 more men rounded the corner. She dropped one, drove the others to cover. Then the vault door swung open. Elias emerged with a ledger, a thick leather book stuffed with papers, documents, the accumulated evidence of a decade of crime. Got it. Time to go. They emerged from the bank's back door into chaos and ran directly into Cole Hastings. The deputy's face was bleeding, his uniform torn. He had been fighting. They know you are here. Drake is coming with everyone he has. Cole, go, through the livery, out the back. I will hold them as long as I can. Cole drew his pistol, checked the cylinder. I should have done this years ago. Come with us. Cannot. Someone has to make sure you get away clean. He met Clara's eyes. Tell people what happened here. What Drake did. What I tried to do. Cole. Gunfire erupted. Cole spun, fired back, dropped behind cover. Go! They ran. The livery, horses saddled and ready. Cole must have arranged this too. But as they mounted, a voice stopped them cold. Going somewhere. Judge Solomon Drake stepped from the shadows, pistol raised. He was not alone. 5 men flanked him, all armed. Lily. Drake's voice was smooth, calm. My poor confused child. Come here, let father make this right. Lily shrank behind Clara. No, you are ill, my darling. These people have manipulated you, made you believe terrible things about your own father. Drake's smile was warm. His eyes were death. Come now, we will get you proper care. You mean the asylum? Lily's voice shook but held. Where no one will believe a word I say, for your own protection. Cannot have my precious daughter raving about murders that never happened. Clara stepped forward. The ledger clutched to her chest. It is over, Drake. We have your records. Every bribe, every death, every stolen acre. The territorial governor will see this by week's end. The governor! Drake laughed. Who do you think got him elected? Clara's mind raced. They were outgunned, surrounded. Elias might take 2 or 3, but they would all die. Unless, these people do not know, do they? Clara raised her voice, addressing Drake's men. About Elizabeth Drake, about what you did to your own wife. The men shifted uneasily. About Thomas Merritt, your son Judge, your own blood. Murdered in cold blood because he would not help you steal from honest families. Lies, Drake snapped. She is lying. Then why did you send Lily away? Why keep her locked in a convent for 10 years? Clara pointed at Lily. Look at her. Does she look like a crazy woman? Or does she look like a witness you have spent a decade trying to silence? I warned you, Mrs. Crow. Drake raised his pistol. I offered you a chance to walk away. You chose this. He fired. Cole Hastings appeared from nowhere, threw himself between Clara and the bullet. It took him in the chest. He fell. His own pistol coming up, returning fire. His shot caught Drake in the shoulder, spinning the judge around. Then everything happened at once. Elias drew and fired, dropping 2 of Drake's men before they could react. Clara shoved Lily to cover, drew her own weapon, shot a 3rd man reaching for her. The remaining guards broke and ran. They signed up for easy money, not a bloodbath. Drake was on his knees, clutching his wounded shoulder, face contorted with rage. You think this changes anything, he snarled. I own this territory. I own. Lily picked up Cole's fallen pistol. Her hands shook. Her eyes were wet. You killed my mother, she whispered. You killed my brother. You killed every good thing in your life because you could not stop wanting more. Lily, my darling girl, put that down. Drake's voice softened, became paternal. I did it all for you, for our family's legacy. No. Lily's grip steadied. You did it for yourself. You always did everything for yourself. She pointed the gun at her father's head. Clara stepped forward, gently placed her hand over Lily's. Do not. He deserves to die. He deserves to face justice. Clara's voice was soft but firm. To sit in a courtroom while witnesses tell the truth about him. To be stripped of his title, his respect, his name. To spend his last years in the territorial prison, knowing everyone knows what he really is, that is not enough. That is not. Maybe not. But killing him makes you a murderer. It lets him take one more thing from you, your soul. Clara gently pried the gun from Lily's fingers. Do not let him have that. You have given him enough. Lily collapsed against Clara, sobbing. Drake looked up at them with something approaching disbelief. You are letting me live. Elias stepped forward, revolver trained on Drake's head. The law can have you. His voice was ice. But if you ever threaten Clara or Lily again, if you so much as whisper their names, I will find you, and what I do will make hanging look merciful. Clara rushed to Cole's side. The wound was bad. Center mass, bleeding heavily. Cole, hold on. I cannot. Cole's voice was wet, bubbling. Knew it when I made my choice. He grabbed her hand. Tell them. Tell everyone. What happened here? I will. I promise. Cole's eyes drifted to Lily, then back to Clara. Loved you, since the first time you patched up my stupid hand when I cut it on a fence. A ghost of a smile. Guess I finally did something worthy of that. He died with Clara holding his hand. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Witnesses came from across the territory. Families who had lost homes. Workers who had been exploited. People who had stayed silent out of fear for years. Lily testified for 2 days. Her voice never wavered, not when she described her mother's murder. Not when she identified her father as the man who had ordered Thomas Merritt killed. Not when Drake's lawyer tried to paint her as mentally unstable. Clara testified, too, about her father's investigation, about Thomas's letters, about the night in the warehouse when she killed 3 of Drake's men in self-defense. Elias presented the ledger. Every page documented, every entry verified. A decade of crime laid bare for the court to see. The jury deliberated for less than an hour. Guilty on 12 counts of murder. Guilty on 17 counts of fraud. Guilty on countless smaller crimes. Judge Solomon Drake was sentenced to life imprisonment at the Territorial Prison in Laramie. No possibility of parole. No chance of his money buying freedom. The newspaper headline read, "The Benevolent Tyrant. How Redemption Creek's Most Respected Citizen Built an Empire on Blood." Clara stood in the courtroom as they led Drake away in chains. He looked old now, diminished. The power that had made him terrifying stripped away by truth. He met her eyes as he passed. "You think this is over?" His voice was a hiss. "You think you have won? I think you are going to die in prison." Clara's voice was steady. "I think my father and Thomas and everyone else you killed can rest now. I think that is enough." Drake's face twisted, but before he could speak, the guards pulled him away. He disappeared through the courthouse doors. Clara did not watch him go. She walked out into the sunlight instead, where Elias was waiting. "It is over," she said. "It is over." He confirmed. Clara let him pull her close, right there in front of God and everyone. Let herself be held for the first time since she could remember. She had ordered a husband, a safe, gentle school teacher to help her keep the farm. Instead, she had gotten this, an armed stranger who taught her to fight, who stood beside her through violence and revelation and grief, who loved her exactly as she was. It was not what she had ordered. It was so much better. 6 months later. Spring had come to the territory. The snow had melted, revealing new growth beneath. Where Clara's father's house once stood, a new structure rose. Not yet complete, but taking shape. Elias hammered shingles on the roof while Clara directed the men helping with the foundation for a small barn. They were not alone. The community that had ignored Drake's crimes for years had rallied in guilt and gratitude. Every weekend, someone arrived with lumber, with food, with willing hands. Clara saw Maggie Sullivan off at the train station, the same platform where everything began. "Cannot stay here," Maggie said. "Too many memories. Too many people who remember what I did to survive. You helped us when it counted, after years of helping him." Maggie's smile was rueful. "Brendan is free now. We are heading to California, starting over." They embraced. Not quite friends, but no longer enemies. "Thank you," Clara said, "for the information, for the risk." "Thank you for ending it." Maggie stepped onto the train. "Give that husband of yours my regards." Lily Drake chose to keep her name. To redeem it, she said, "The Drake fortune, what remained after restitution to victims, established a school in Redemption Creek. Lily taught there now. The same small children whose families her father had destroyed. Some days were hard. She still had nightmares. But Clara found her one afternoon reading to a circle of enraptured first graders. And something like peace lived in Lily's eyes. "How are you?" Clara asked afterward. "Getting better?" Lily touched the simple locket at her throat. It held a photograph of her mother. "Some days I almost feel hopeful. That is all any of us can ask." Clara stood before Cole Hastings's grave in the town cemetery. The headstone was simple. Cole Hastings, 1859 to 1887. He found his courage when it mattered most. She laid wildflowers against the stone, said nothing. There were no words adequate for what Cole had given. Elias waited at a respectful distance. "He loved you," Elias said as they walked away. "I know. That does not bother you, that I married the woman he loved. Clara considered. Cole loved an idea of me, a gentle farmer's daughter who needed protecting. She took Elias's hand. You love who I actually am. There is a difference. Yeah. She squeezed his fingers. Besides, Cole gave his blessing. In his way. He wanted me to be happy. Are you? Happy. Clara looked at the territory spread before them. The mountains, the grasslands, the town rebuilding itself on a foundation of truth instead of lies. I am getting there. That night, Elias wrote a final report to the Pinkerton agency, sitting at a desk in their half-built house. The case is closed. Drake will spend his remaining years in prison. The victims' families have received what restitution is possible. Thomas Merritt's grave has been properly marked and honored. I request permanent leave from active investigation. The territory has need of a capable lawman, and I find I have reasons to stay. Enclosed, please find Sarah's badge. I have carried it for 5 years as penance. I think she would rather it be used than worn as a chain. It is time I learned to live for the present instead of dying for the past. He sealed the letter, set it aside. On the mantel above the fireplace, a photograph of Clara's father, a tintype of Thomas that Clara found among his effects, a small frame holding a pressed flower, the first spring wildflower from their new land, and Sarah's locket. Finally, at rest. Dawn. Spring light painting the mountains gold and rose. Clara stood in the field where her father's house used to be, the same spot where she had stood at his grave, where she had first seen Elias across the train platform, where everything began. But this time green shoots pushed up through the thawed earth, life returning. Elias came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. What are you thinking? He asked. I am thinking about what I ordered. A safe husband. A gentle school teacher who would help me keep the farm. And what you got instead. Clara turned in his arms, looking up at the man who had taught her to fight, to trust, to love. I got exactly what I needed. She kissed him, soft and certain, even if I did not know it at the time. They stood together as the sun rose, two people who had found each other through violence and loss and came out the other side, not unscathed, never unscathed, but alive. Together, home. The train whistle sounded from far away, another life arriving, another story beginning. But this story was complete. Sometimes the wrong man is exactly the right one. Sometimes love is forged in fire. Sometimes home is not where you start. It is where you choose to stay. Clara Whitmore had ordered a husband, not an armed cowboy, but standing in that field with Elias Crow's arms around her, watching the sun rise over their half-built house, their healing land, their hard-won future. She would not have had it any other way. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful stories with valuable life lessons. Every narrative is crafted to entertain, inspire, and empower our audience. We believe that great stories can change lives, and we are committed to bringing you content that matters. Thank you for being part of our community.